I guess I'll start off with Justin. Justin, when I first met you, when you just started that role.
Yes.
How has that been for you? When I know you were a little more, I guess, timid, you were not used to everything, and now you've done this for about 4 seasons. Second movie, how's it been for you overall?
It's been incredible. Like it's been an absolute dream, you know, to see this show that I felt was so special in itself become such a phenomenon in our pop culture is amazing. And what really gets me nowadays is to be able to meet folks that are impacted by this show so positively, like little kids and families come together to watch this show every week. And I think that's the coolest thing because it just was not like that when I was growing up. So for people to have this to bond over and the characters to root for, it's been amazing, and I'm just really glad to see that it's taken off so incredibly.
I have a question for you too.
Yeah.
So, what is it like to be the voice of Deku, knowing that your voice is one of the most major contributors to the feel of the movie and the series?
Sure. I mean, of course, it feels. I feel the pressure a little bit, and I'm fortunate to have been living with this character for a few years now, so it feels a little more comfortable. But what really struck me about Deku most of all when I was starting out is that he's a real kid. You know, there's superpowers everywhere. Everyone has crazy powers that can do anything, but he is dealing with common things that we deal with growing up, like self-worth and struggling to find our place in society. So I thought if I can just keep that as honest as possible, the rest will fall into place.
I
have a question for you. I probably know the least of any of the media here because I'm from a general newspaper and not an anime or any other sort of specific publication from the Orange County Register, Los Angeles Daily News. And for people who may not be as familiar with it, or people who have kids that are familiar with it but they may not understand it, how would you sort of describe what it has been about My Hero Academia that's created such a pop culture sensation that you were talking about a minute ago? What does this show do that appeals so strongly to the fans that have found it over the last few years?
I think one of the things that really draws people to My Hero Academia is that it deals a lot with what kids actually deal with growing up. They deal with, as Justin was saying a moment ago, self-worth and where they stand in the world. Are they cool? Are they not cool? And all these things are determined by stuff that's outside of their controls, the way that they're born, the powers that they manifest. They deal with bullying. They deal with overcoming that and standing up for themselves and learning to fight for the little guy. And it deals a lot with dreams and passion and things that we all experience and feel ourselves growing up and moving on through life, that there are things that we want to accomplish and strive to be, and how do we do that and succeed that way as ourselves.
Yeah, it is exactly that, and it helps that we are in sort of a superhero mania, pop culture wise. You know, Marvel sort of paved the way with all that, but I think that has also made it more accessible to, say, families who are not, or people who just don't watch anime in general. I hear pretty often that I'm not really an anime watcher, but I really got into My Hero and I couldn't stop watching it, and it just speaks to the human elements of it and how you can see a little bit of yourself in each of these characters, and sometimes you resonate with a certain one more than others, and that's how, you know, this sort of fandom arises online, and they get together and talk for hours and hours about their favorite characters, their favorite moments, their favorite, like, this character said this one word a certain way, and that sort of changes how I understand them now, and it's just something, a great creative ground for people to dig into and love these characters.
I think I have a question for the both of you. In regards to character development, at what point do you guys feel that your characters kind of grew as a person, like made that big leap, instead of learning the little lessons, made that big leap from like one point to, you know, that major milestone? You know, I know for Bakugo there was moments where self-doubt, self-worth, Izuku, same issue.
Yep.
What do you think at what point is where they kind of shifted their worldview?
I mean, I personally feel like it was a lot during season 3.
Yeah.
There's so much in season 3 especially for on my end of stuff playing Bakugo, because Bakugo gets captured again for another time. He's been held captive by a villain, even though he himself is so powerful and so strong. To be overcome like that, that's a blow to the ego. And then the villains want him to join them, and he doesn't want to, and All Might loses his power in the fight, saving him, and then to finally to fail the licensing exam and then go on to fight Deku privately. There's a lot of growth in that season just because he is struggling the most with, why do these things keep happening to me? Why am I the one that is always the inciting factor for these bad things that are happening? And why is it that you, someone who I have viewed as less than or worthless, why are you the one that's always stepping up? What does this mean for me? That always feels like the biggest, that whole season is the biggest growth moment, I feel like, for Bakugo. And especially that it grows the relationship between him and Deku. They finally, at the end of that episode, stop viewing each other as enemies and more as competition.
That's exactly, no, that is precisely it is that the fight, the Deku vs. Kachan version 2, right?
Yes.
It really encapsulates how far that they've come up until then, because I really do feel for Bakugo in those moments, in that of course he's frustrated. He's essentially being lied to, or there's a secret being kept from him, and he kind of knows it. So for them to finally break down that barrier and just talk like, regular people, it goes a long way for them, and it sort of cools their relationship down a bit.
Actually, I want to delve back into their interesting way that they talk to each other, how that's right.
Yeah.
For both of you, how has it been kind of like having to interact, having to take on the more fierce role, more smart role, to just see that change, that dynamic change over the season? How has it been for you?
For me, Bakugo, you guys may not know this, but Bakugo yells a lot, and that's always really taxing on me physically. So something that's been really interesting in the more recent episodes, because as we're getting further into season 4, Bakugo is starting to show up a little bit more, and even in the few episodes where he's popping back up, he isn't yelling quite as much anymore. So that's an interesting thing for him, is that his character is developing in this way that his sort of always overtly aggressive attitude is kind of taking a step back a little bit. He's not snapping at people as quickly. He talks a little bit more, which is really interesting for me, because now I get to explore that side of him. There's a lot of character growth going on with that. Then now there are these more soft and, I don't want to necessarily say gentle, but gentler moments from Bakugo as he kind of comes to accept everybody else around him, which is actually something I'm really excited about in the movie. The new movie is back in season 2, without going into any too big of spoilers for anything, back in season 2, there's a whole sequence where Bakugo says, remind me what all your quirks are and your names. He doesn't know anybody. He doesn't retain anybody, because nobody's worth it to him. But in this next movie, you will see there are several moments that he says the names of other people that he's never referred to by their names. And even those moments, for me as the actor, I was like, oh my god, he knows their names! So it was such a genuinely exciting moment for me in the booth recording that, because I was like, oh my god, he's come so far that he actually acknowledges these people now. So
I love that. Deku's had a little kind of a classical journey so far. He started out with essentially nothing, and had his passion and his love for superheroes got him in a place where he can finally grow and have a quirk and be around people that inspire him. And so the past 4 seasons have been compounding on that, and sort of learning that your heroes maybe are fallible, but that's what makes them. That's what makes them human. All Might is still the number one hero in his heart, even if he lets him down sometimes. But because their relationship has strengthened together, I feel like he is still growing because of that. So where he is now, he's been through a lot of really devastating fights and journeys, and he's hurt himself pretty badly. So he's learning lessons in that way as well, in that you have to kind of take it easy. You know, in the beginning it was, I finally have a quirk, now I can do anything, but I got to be careful. And now it's sort of the opposite. You got to scale it back because you're dangerous to people around you.
So I have a question for both of y'all. Might be a little bit of a spoiler, but we need to know. So, can you talk about what were your initial thoughts of Deku and Bakugo during the moment in the movie when Deku...
I don't know that we should really talk about that. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like that's a moment that we should let the audiences decide for themselves.
It's the big one, yeah.
It's a big moment. It is a big moment, and it's very exciting. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
It's very exciting, but I want the audiences to experience it for themselves.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just curious how much the English show intersects with the Japanese show. You know, do you know your counterparts from the other part, and what is it like being part of sort of this multifaceted show? You know, where there's people can choose to listen to the version that you do, or they can watch subtitles, or if they speak Japanese, they can listen in the original there. I'm just curious. It's kind of an interesting way that entertainment works today, where you can have multiple people portraying the emotions and delivering the words. What's it like in this?
It's really cool. And since our English dub has come out, I've also, I think, seen clips of like other language dubs that have come out since. So I think that's really cool. Like to see this big phenomenon become kind of global and international and share this story worldwide is super cool. And to address the first part of the question, I have met the Japanese save for Deku, Daiki Yamashita, and we met when the first movie came out. He came out to Los Angeles to premiere it, and so we got to actually talk and hang out like for a decent bit. We talked a lot about food, so that was great. And then I also got to meet the author of the manga, Horikoshi Sensei, and that was really outstanding, because what we were saying about how this has blown up and become huge, it was his first trip internationally. So he came out to San Diego and had a big panel, filled the whole biggest ballroom at San Diego Comic-Con, and you just kind of got to hear him talk about his process, and everyone kind of picked his brain a little bit, and so I think that really speaks to how big this has become internationally, and that we were finally able to get some folks over here to address a different audience than they're used to, and they went crazy for them. So I think that's really special.
I have not yet had the privilege of meeting Nobuhiko Okamoto. I would love to one day. I have, as Justin kind of said, there are other language dubs starting to come out. I've actually interacted with a few of the other language voice actors through social media, which has been kind of cool. And hearing their interpretations and seeing how they've gone with the character and what's like mine or what's like Nobuhiko Okamoto's and where do we cross over? What changes a little bit for the cultural differences and stuff like that. That's a really cool thing. I find it fascinating. I love when I find the clips of the other language dubs and I can listen to it. I would love to meet the other people that are involved in the show, especially on the Japanese and other languages in person. But I have not yet had the privilege for that. But it's a cool thing that people can now experience the show in so many different ways in so many different languages and have access to those things. Like the fan base is so quick to adapt to it and sink their teeth into it. They want to hear those things. They want to hear what these voices are and how do these countries portray these things or make this joke and I don't know. I think it's fascinating. I wish I had a more intellectual answer, but I just genuinely I find it like educational. Like when I can listen to those sorts of things and see those things, it's very exciting to me.
I have another movie-specific question, if I'm allowed, for both of you. So, what are your thoughts on Nine, the main antagonist of the movie, and how do you think he differs from the villains you've seen in the series so far?
Thoughts on 9?
9 is interesting. We sort of have a big part of hero villainy is basically that All for One, right? All for One has as many powers as he wants. So for a long time, that was seen as this big paragon of evil, and we locked him away. He's in some kind of like X-Men prison, you know. So I think things got a little complacent. You know, you sort of think, all right, well, the rest of these, everyone has one quirk, and we got to deal with that one power. So I think on this island, especially because it's been touted as there's no villains on this island, everything's going to be nice and peaceful, and we're going to do some good work. So it's not just a villain; it's a group of villains, and the head has a ton of crazy powers that they can't suss out without fighting him, and he has the advantage nearly the entire movie. So I think that's sort of what it all boils down to is how do you beat this unbeatable force of nature, and how do you think on the fly, how do you regain your advantage and save these innocent people.
Yeah, so this was actually Bakugo's first time like in a big screen and like super focused on actual hero duty. So how do you feel about that?
I loved it. I genuinely loved this movie because we've seen Bakugo's growth to this point so much that it was like a very developed character first of all, and then to see him sort of readily jump into the fight alongside Deku is an incredible moment, and I even saw the movie a little bit before Justin did, and I went and found him. Instead, I was like, you can't even imagine how cool some of these moments are. I couldn't. So like they were but they're super exciting, and to see them actually like work together and complement each other in battle was almost breathtaking, to be honest, to see them have reached this point that they're duking it out and coming up against a challenge like 9 together, because pretty much the entire movie is Deku and Bakugo fighting 9, and only them fighting 9. So, which is, it's so cool. So to see them just constantly be pushed back and get up again, it's such a gratifying moment. So I can't hype up this movie enough. It's so exciting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.